Today on Midlife Conversations, I've got my friend Sam Horn, and I had to have her on because Sam's way of communication and expressing herself and the way she speaks of others is one of those things that has completely stood out to me. We are in a mastermind together in a mastermind group, and I've watched Sam, how she introduces people, how she interacts with people, how she communicates, how she coaches people, and it's blown me away. And, I could go on and on about her TED Talks and her books and her and everything. And I will do that as we get into this. But her most recent book, Talking on Eggshells, really got my attention. And then more recently, I had a guest, Michael Bernoff, on my show. And Sam, I was telling you this before we even started recording. And I was blown away by the response from listeners of this show about communication. They wanted more. How do we communicate with our grown kids? How do we communicate better at work? How do we communicate better with our employees if we're business owners? How do we communicate with friends so that we don't feel the resentment? We don't feel unheard. We don't leave all that on the table, which also can impact our health and our stress levels. So Sam, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, you bet. I'm looking forward to sharing some stories and insights with your community.
So I want to back up a little bit, Sam, because I want to know, how did you even become such an eloquent speaker? Like, where did this come from? Were you born doing this? Was this a learned skill? Was this always part of you? I'm so curious.
I grew up in a Cold War, not that kind of Cold War. My parents, my dad was very emotionally distant, and my mom was emotionally wounded, and they just didn't talk to each other. Natalie, Jill, it's like they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to heal years of hurt. So they would sit in the same room for hours. We would go on drives for hours, and no one would say anything.
Whoa.
And so I kind of grew up conflict avoidant, right? If something's hard, something's difficult, if you don't know what to say, you just don't say anything.
So you learned to kind of keep your mouth shut and just sit back. And what did that do to you growing up with that?
It's like what you start internalizing everything. It's like somebody says something that's hurtful and you want to say, hey. However, you have learned not to respond in the moment. And so you just end up suffering in silence with a lot of, I should have said, I wish I'd said. And of course, that doesn't make conflict go away. It just makes it worse.
Yeah. So what changed with you? Because if you're growing up learning that, you're keeping your mouth shut, you're learning to be avoidant of it. What changed? When did you first learn, you know what, there's another way?
I was in a relationship then with someone who is a narcissist. And I call them 5%ers because I think that 95% of people care what's fair. They want a win-win. They want to cooperate. Well, bullies or narcissists, they don't. They want to control, not to cooperate. They want to win, not a win-win. And I ended up writing a book about take the bully by the horns, because what I learned is if we're dealing with a strong personality, they will steamroll over us. And all of our kindness and our empathy and putting ourselves in their shoes, that actually backfires with those type of 5%ers.
Now, when you said you end up in a relationship, so that wasn't a parent, that was somebody that you were actually in a relationship with. So right. Did you connect the dots there that maybe the way that you grew up drew you to that?
Oh, I didn't know. I don't know about the word draw. What I do know is that I did not see it coming. In fact, a psychologist one time said, why did you end up in a relationship with someone so controlling? I never thought of it as controlling. When he planned every detail of our dates, I thought, cool. When he pursued me relentlessly, I thought he just really wants me. I did not know that those were the signs of controlling behavior.
Wow.
So I'm kind of a woman on a mission for how can we, especially in midlife, now is the time for us to start using our voice, whether it's at work, whether it's with our family. It is time to stop being silent, because that hurts us and it models it for our kids. And I don't think that's what we want to do.
So how did you get out of that box? Because that's amazing. You wrote a book, you started speaking out, and I've heard how you speak, but how did that happen? Because a lot of people in those relationships are being raised that way. They are really truly silenced and they never learn that skill, or they're too scared to speak up. So what shifted?
Natalie, Jill, you just used the secret word skill. It is a skill to do this. We learn math and science and history. We don't learn what to say when someone accuses us of something that's not true. We don't learn what to do when people are complaining. We don't learn what to do when people are arguing or blaming. So I wrote a book called Tung Fu, and it's like, here's what to say in those situations. It's a skill. You can acquire it. you can have clarity and confidence so you can speak up in the moment instead of thinking of the perfect response on the way home.
So you say skill, and I'm so curious, is this like that you came up with it? Did you study other people? How did you even get that skill? Because obviously I know listeners right now, they can cheat the system. You've got all these books, so they can go listen to them and learn. But how did you develop that?
It's street interviews. Is that I don't have a PhD, and so I did not go to college to get educated in this. And this actually has become my secret sauce, is because I don't talk about theories. I don't talk about, don't let people get under your skin. No, what do you say? And so I would interview taxi drivers, waitresses, lawyers, and it's like, all right, what do we say when someone accuses us of something that we didn't do? So shall we just go into an example?
Yeah, I would love
to show you once again
Please.
the words, so we don't have to be tongue-tied or tongue-twisted again.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, now you know me, by the way, unless people are driving, I hope they get paper, right?
Let's do it. Let's get paper.
Let's put down 3 columns. The first column are situations, and we'll talk about what to do when someone's canceling us out, what to do when someone is swearing, what to do when our teenager doesn't.
Oh my gosh, how long do you have? My gosh, we're gonna have to be on for 8 hours. Okay, so yeah, let's get into some of it.
Okay, so and the first column situation is this is what to do if someone accuses us of something untrue. So I'm speaking at a leadership conference, and a woman put her hand up and she said, Sam, why are women so catty to each other? Now, in the middle column, put deny. Because see, if someone accuses us of something, our instinct is to say, well, I don't think women are catty. Off we go. Do you see how it actually argues their point?
Yes.
So instead, we're going to redirect the conversation instead of deny it. And here's the words. I said, ladies, let's agree we're never going to ask or answer that question again, because every time we do, we perpetuate that stereotype. We're going to Don Draper it. He said, if you don't like what's being said, change the conversation. So the bridge line is, do you know what I found? I think women are real champions of each other. I wouldn't have this. So imagine someone says, you don't love me anymore. I do too love you. It
just creates an argument.
Denying it goes back and forth. Instead, now use these 4 words. What do you mean? Well, we haven't been on a date in months. Do you see how the 4 words, what do you mean? You never listen to me. I do too listen to you. Down the rabbit hole we go. What do you mean? Well, you've had your head in the phone for the last hour. You haven't even looked up. You don't love me anymore. What do you mean? Well, we haven't had a date in months. Do you hear how the words, what do you mean, reveal the real issue? We respond to that instead of react to the accusation.
What do you mean? I like that. What do you mean? So that's in conversation. What do you mean? But on stage, like that just happened, you wouldn't have directed back. What do you mean? You would have basically agreed like you did in a way, and then said a different opinion that you had without arguing.
That's right. Let's go into work. Someone says, you don't care about your customers. What do you know? Say, what do you mean? Right. And they may say, well, I've left 3 messages and no one's called back. Or you can redirect it, especially if you feel that the intent of the person is to knock you off balance. This is a troll. This is someone who's looking to control. Then we do not ask what they mean, because we give them a bully pulpit. Then we just say, I think women are so emotional. You know what? I think emotions are good in business. It means we deeply care, and we combine that with our expertise and our passion for this. So do you see how, what do you believe? What do you want to go record on? And that's, if you're on stage or if you're dealing with someone who is trying to knock you off balance, you just go on record with what you want to be known for instead of arguing with their accusations.
Makes sense. Okay, so I want to ask more examples. However, I don't want to skip the reason we get defensive, because I believe the reason we get defensive like that is it triggers something in us. And that's why people get defensive, and then ego comes up. So I'd love to speak a little bit into that, or have you share, because I'm sure there's times people have said things to you that you feel, you're human, you get the trigger. Yeah. So how do you stop yourself from that reaction and redirect yourself to the right way to respond?
I'm so glad you said that. So let's talk about getting knocked off balance, right? Is that you're using the word trigger. I actually think, Natalie Jill, it comes from we cannot believe that people are behaving this way. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot believe that they will deliberately do something that's manipulative
Yes.
or controlling or mean girl or something like that. So see, our reaction is one of disbelief or shock. And
Okay.
if we're dealing with a 5%er, that's what they want. They're actually knowingly saying, oh, you look good in stripes. They're so slimming.
They know what they're
It's like,
saying.
it's that passive aggressiveness,
Yeah.
manipulative. Then we do what's called name the game. And when we say, does that work with other people? Do you see?
Oh.
Do you see how in naming the game, we actually surface the agenda, the tactic, we address the tactic. So if we're dealing with a salesperson and they're really pushy, we say, you're not trying to rush me into a decision anymore, are you? Well, not anymore, they're not. It's like,
Mm.
if we deal with two people and a senior comes in and gives us assignment, then junior comes in a half an hour later, we ask ourselves, what is happening here? And we say it is that, please stop putting me in the middle. The two of you decide which is the priority, and then I'll start on it. It's, a couple told me that this helped save their marriage because they were both under a lot of stress and they were both carping on each other. And you know what they've learned to say? We've had a bad day. Let's not take it out on each other.
Mm.
Do you see
So
what
good.
is happening? We've had a bad day. Let's not take it out on each other. And now we're aware of what's happening instead of just being in the middle of it.
Yes, that's so good. So good. Such a shift on that. Okay, let's talk about, I want to go to the teenager conversation because
Mhm.
this is a big one and a lot of listeners have teenagers or younger adults.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've navigated that. And there's a lot of whatever I can say being right in it because I have a 16-year-old. If sometimes it feels like whatever I say is the wrong thing, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And I'll even think, okay, she just said this. I can respond one of 10 ways. And no matter what I pick, it's the wrong way. Can you speak a little into that? How do we handle the people that no matter what we say, it feels wrong?
Okay, and so a story and then the reveal
Yes.
of the both the mindset we can have in that and what we can say in that situation. I was speaking at a conference and a group of us then were in the halls afterwards, and one woman said just exactly what you said. She says, I'm a single mom. I have one daughter. We used to be best friends,
Yeah.
and then she turned 13,
Yes,
and
that's what
all of a
happens. At
sudden I
13 is
can't
the
do
evil
anything
number.
right. She said on her 13th birthday, I came downstairs and she looked at me and she said, Mom, can't you do something with your hair?
Oh gosh.
And she said, it's so painful.
Mhm.
Like you said, everything I do is wrong. And so I said, all right, you should write about this. Now let's come up with a title. I said, put yourself in the scene where your daughter said something with an exclamation mark. And she didn't even have to think about it. She said, I just worry so much about my daughter and our
Mm.
relationship. I thought, oh, I know. I'll go to a conference with her so that she can meet my workers. She can understand what I do. It'll be bonding. No, they arrive. And the first thing someone says is, oh, you're just like your mom. Guess what she
Yeah,
said?
that triggers the
I
heck out of
am
mine.
not like my
Yeah, it
mom.
triggers my daughter like crazy.
Yep. I
Yeah.
said, that is the title of your book.
I
I
am
am
not.
not like my mother.
Oh,
And
that's
then
great.
the subtitle is Why Daughters of Smart Women Rebel and What to Do About It.
Oh, that's so good.
The key is understanding when we're a teenager, as you said, we do not like to be our parent. And if our parent is successful or beautiful or talented or strong, we will do the opposite of that in order to have our own identity.
Mm.
So I'm going to tell a story and then a word we're going to start
Yes.
using. Okay. Is that a woman said, Sam, I have two twin daughters. They started driving and dating on the same day. I'm a nervous wreck. I worry all the time until my daughters one night came home late. Are they in some ditch somewhere? Why
Yeah.
are they calling? Did something happen? And they came in and she said, what did I do? I started in on them, right? Because where have you been? I didn't
Yeah.
know you. And they interrupted her and they said, Mom, you think you show us how much you love us by worrying about us. You're showing us that you don't trust us.
Mm.
So for every woman out there, we are going to replace the word worry with trust. I trust that you will use good judgment. I trust that you will figure it out. I trust that you'll be able to work this through. Do you see how that's what they want? They want our trust that they're smart and talented and resourceful. And when we start using this word instead of, what if you don't pass that test? What if this boy does this to? No.
Yeah.
No more worry. Trust.
Wow. So, okay, this just happened recently. So I live in Arizona, and I just moved from San Diego, and my daughter goes back and forth right now because she's 16 and her dad's in San Diego. So we have a schedule and she goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And I happen to be in San Diego on the time she's supposed to be with him. And I said, okay, on my way back to Arizona, I'm just going to stop by and say hi. Cause I had to drop a car off and all the things. So I walk in, I see her, and instead of her saying hi, she says, "What are you doing here?" And right away, then my reaction is right away, "Well, good to see you too," which starts in a whole annoyance of a conversation. Right. So those types of things, how do you because they're going to say things that are shocking to us. Right. And then at least me, I get defensive and it's like, well, whoa, because I'm thinking, I can't wait to see her. And she's thinking, what are you doing here?
Yeah. It is. I'm going to recommend something to you and to everyone on the call. So quick story, and then we'll come back. Is that, I grew up hoping to have a family like the Waltons, night mom, night dad, no, it was like the Simpsons. It was not like the Waltons, And so, especially in high school, my sons who had been best friends, one's got in sports, one got in video games. And, they actually sometimes had physical fights where I had to intervene. It was tremendously concerning. And I just tried as a mom to keep bringing them together. And I realized that at that stage of their life, different was wrong, and that they were acting out some of the stress in our family. So what I did is I put pictures of them up on the refrigerator, pictures of Tom whispering in Andrew's ear and him being pictures of them playing sports together. And even when they were in the middle of it, I planted the seed that you were best friends at one point in your life. And right now, different is wrong. Just give each other space. And someday you will come back together again as brothers. So you know what? Instead of reacting to the hurt of the people we love most in the world, not wanting to have anything to do with us, we're going to have trust and patience and love. Pema Chodron says, do not let people pull you into their storm.
So good.
Pull them into your peace. So we will be the loving, patient, wise parents that understand this is a stage of their life. We will have pictures on our refrigerator of our closeness. We will give them the space in their teens to become their own person, trusting that the example that we're setting will endure, and in their own time, they will come back to us because it is their decision, and we modeled what it's like to continue in the midst of those times, to be loving and kind and patient, and they will warm to us because the energy is not like this anymore. They're back, or bark, 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 right? No, our energy is like this: warm, kind, loving, trust. And that is when they have the space to come back to us because the energy is not like this.
So good. I love that. Or also when they need something, they will be very nice. So you'll have temporarily, because I know that I also know that feeling like, well, she's not nice right now, but she's going to need something in a minute, or she's going to want a coffee from Starbucks and she's going to be really nice.
Okay. So guess what? They're capable of it.
Yes, we know they're capable.
And let's basically just talk, is it because this just came out in conversation? we are going to get rid of, actually, there's a whole words to lose and words to use. So let's talk specifically about that, because especially when things are tense between us, there are trigger words. And if we use these words, it will. And of course, we've heard this before. It's the cancel cure is to get rid of the word but. Well, I know you want to go out, but I know you want to use the car, but I know it's important to you, but I know you don't want to study, but if we use the word but, we are creating a conflict. Is an adversarial word. I'm not listening to you. I am listening to you, but, you know, I know you want to do that, but do you see how the word but is actually setting up?
I do. And I've actually replaced it with the word and, but now she's on to that.
That's right. In fact, right, here's the good news. And Natalie Gio, once again, because my sons are in the 30s, I'm speaking from experience that if we keep modeling this, and if we keep these words to lose, words to use on the refrigerator, they start using them too.
That's right.
It's like so cool. In fact, here are 2 words. Be sure to get rid of these words. Our kids ask something, and often we say can't because, you know, can I go out and play with my friends? No, you can't, because you haven't cleaned your room. Can I watch TV? No, you can't. Or not TV these days, Netflix these days, right? Can I watch Netflix? No, you can't, because you haven't done your chores. Look at that room. Look at that trash. How many times do I have to tell you? And we're off and running. Look at those words, can't because. Often we can use yes, you can, as soon as. Yes, you can play with your friends as soon as you finish your homework. Yes, you can watch Netflix as soon as you finish your chores. You know, I'm around my grandson Hero a lot these days, who's the son of Mickey Agrawal and Andrew Horn. And I just did this at his soccer game the other day. It's like he wanted to watch his iPad, and I said, yes, you can, as soon as you buckle up. Guess what? Now he buckles up, and then he asks for the iPad, and they would start doing it themselves. It's like, and now guess what? We don't even say anything. Natalie Jill, you've got the world's best eyebrows. If they ask for something, once you start the can as soon as, instead of, they say, can I, oh, what's something we haven't talked, can I go outside? And we just look at them. I know, as soon as I feed the dog, you know, guess what? They start understanding. And by the way, a single mom said, my kids see me as a big meanie because I tell them no all the time. They think I'm blocking them from what it is they want. When I say, yes, you can, as soon as, look who's in charge of getting.
That's right. You're putting it back on them to be in charge. I love that. So I'm going to start using that a lot. Yeah. So and then what else I love these. What else should we be getting rid of?
Okay.
I've got
So let's get our notes. So we have, if someone accuses us of something we don't deny, redirect. What do you mean? You know what I found is what to do if we have to tell someone no, instead of no, you can't, because say yes, you can, as soon as. It's now let's talk about what to do if someone makes a mistake, if our kids do something wrong. Sound good?
Yeah.
And now, this quick little story. I'm visiting Andrew in New York, and Hero was 1 at the time. He starts crawling across the floor. He hauls himself up on a guitar over in the corner. He starts banging on the strings. And now in the middle box, Andrew could have said no. He could have said, stop banging on the guitar. He could have yanked it away, all of which would have made Hero feel bad. Instead, Andrew said one word. Do you know what it was? Gentle. I saw Hero's face change in front of me, transform. He reached back to the guitar and went strum, strum, strum. And in that moment, Hero made music because instead of criticizing what he did wrong, he coached him how to do it right.
Yeah, because most parents would say stop it or take it.
In that middle column, put should and put stop and put don't. Because if we say stop teasing your sister, guess what they're going to do? If we say stop making so much noise, when we focus on what we don't want and what they should stop, we actually reinforce the negative behavior. So over on the right, instead of, well, you should have called if you were going to be late. Next time, if you're going to be more than 5 minutes late, please call so that I know you're safe and you're on your way home. Do you see, we're coaching instead of criticizing, we're shaping instead of shaming. Instead of saying, that's not how you do the dishes, you know, or like, you know, you forgot to feed the dog again, right? look at all those words. You forgot to do this. You were late
Yes.
again. You can't go out looking like that. All of those are argumentative words.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, we just say dog. And they go, oh, I forgot to feed the dog. And now they do it willingly instead of reluctantly, because we're not ordering them around. In fact, you want more words to add to the list?
Yes. And then I want to ask you about that situation with my daughter again. We're going to come back to that.
Good. Okay.
Because I want to hear how you would have handled that.
Okay. It is in the middle box, put the words you have to and you need to. Now, Jill, do you know anyone who likes being ordered around? And yet these are default words. And especially if we're in a relationship with our spouse, it's not just our kids. It's like a man did one of this and he said, oh my gosh, now I know how the romance has gone out of our relationship. You need to get gas in the car on the way home. It's like you need to call your mom and tell her we can't come this weekend. Those words, you have to, actually take affection out of a relationship because we're ordering them around if they're kids. So now we say, could you please call your mom? Let her know we can't make it this weekend. Could you please get gas in the car on the way home? Could you please, build in a cushion for Murphy's Law so that we can get there on time? And you see how now we're treating even our partner with courtesy instead of giving them commands.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Now, and once again, for moms and parents, it's like, you should put on a jacket. It's cold outside. Do you feel how that just kind of...
No, it feels like an order. Yeah.
Petty thing. However, do you say you might want to put on a jacket? It's cold outside. Do you see how we're giving them autonomy over their life? You might want to call your friend and let her know that you won't be able to make it to the birthday party. Do you see we're giving them space and grace to make their own decisions instead of telling them what to do all the time?
Makes a lot of sense. Yes. Yes. Okay. So back to the situation when I walked in and she said, what are you doing here? What would have been the right response?
Okay. Now, Jill, all of us, we're going to continue to be the quality of person we want to be, even when other people aren't. So see, that was a little bit snarky, correct? A little bit hurtful, a little bit snarky. If we come back with, well, good to see you too. Snark meets snark.
Which is what I did.
Which, by the way, repeated behavior gets rewarded, right? So if they say something snarky and we react, when you're in that teenage space, it's a little bit of a win because we got a reaction, right?
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a wound, which in a way, when you're a teenager, is asserting your independence, right? It's a little bit of a power play, correct? Yeah. So do you see how we name it? And so we stay kind. We give her a warm smile and we say, and we use their name. We say, it's good to see you, Penelope Grace. See, that's how you want to be. You want to continue to be the quality of person you want to be, no matter what. So if they're snarky, if they say something hurtful, stay in your peace, your Pema Chodron peace, and in a way, let that kind of behavior bounce off like that. Because then you are the center in the storm. You are the peace in the storm. And at some level, they will respect that and they will warm to that and like it because they see that it's a good way to be and that they are not rocking your boat.
Makes total sense. I like that. Okay, so let's talk about being accused of something. Not necessarily from your teenager, but it could be, I guess, but from anyone when someone accuses, because that's another trigger response for people where they're taken off guard and feel combative. What's the right, is that like you gave a sort of a redirect and a flip earlier when you said, what do you mean? Would that be the same advice or something else there?
It's especially sometimes the accusations come with extreme words like always, never, right? It's like, you really blew if it's at work, it's like, boy, you really dropped the ball on that presentation, or you did a terrible job on that Zoom call or something like that. often it's a sweeping generalization, correct? And that's, once again, we're back on our heels, which is like, well, I put a lot of time and effort in on that, or I don't know how you could say that. So-and-so liked it. Do you see, once again, it's this back and forth accusation, reaction, down the rabbit hole we go. Use the words over on the right. What's specific? And now notice this. We do not say what was wrong with it, right? Because you see how we just imprinted the accusation? We use two words, specific and right. So how specifically do you think it could have been better? How specifically could I have done a better job with that presentation? How specifically can we handle those Zoom calls more effectively in the future? This is called finding solutions instead of finding fault. So finding fault is when we reinforce, say people are arguing, well, you dropped the ball on it. Don't look at me. You were the one who was supposed to. Do you see how if we say what happened here, what went wrong here, we're reinforcing the finding blame? Do you see how, use these words, let's not do this, right? Or we can say this won't help, because that is what's called a pattern interrupt. And almost every technique in talking on eggshells is a pattern interrupt. Elvis said, when things go wrong, don't go with them.
So good.
Right? So see, when things go wrong, don't be defensive. Well, I put a lot of time and effort on that. Well, so-and-so thought it was good. No. We're going with what's wrong. We are the pattern interrupt. And often you're an athlete. What does a referee do? If people are getting into it, what does a referee do?
They blow the whistle.
Or they go timeout, right? We can do the same thing. We can go, wait a minute. We can say timeout. This won't help. Let's not do that. Instead, let's focus on how we can get this customer back. Instead, let's figure out how we can prevent this from happening in the future. Instead, let's discuss how we can work together on a team in order to get this ready by the deadline.
What's coming up for me, everything you're saying is so on point, but what's coming up for me is why people don't do what you're suggesting, because I think it comes down to intention, and correct me if I'm wrong, because like your intention is to create neutral space. Your intention is to have resolution. Your intention is not to argue. I think the reason people just don't go to that is emotions are running high, egos are kicking in, and people want to be right. So I guess my question for people listening is, what's your intention? Because I think like logically what you're saying is right there. And then I can think of myself being in an emotional spot. I'm just going to own it. And it's like, okay, yes, I know. And I want to be right now. So I think it's a question of people going, what's my intention? Because like take it on social media, which is a totally different topic, but people get very heated about all types of topics, especially in the last few years, and especially right now. And people's intentions are not neutrality. People's intentions are to be right, to make somebody else wrong. And I think that's why you see such harsh language.
Oh boy. Okay. So this is a whole big topic. So let me be a couple specific things that we can do. Is that a quick example? I saw Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg on CBS Sunday Morning. And the reporter was kind of shocked. She said, I can't believe it. You go to the opera with Judge Scalia and you are on opposite sides of the political spectrum. How can you do that? And she said, we are different. We are one. And Natalie, Jill, you are right that many people these days are looking for reaction. They're looking to, well, Colette said, the better we feel about ourselves, the fewer times we knock someone down in order to feel tall. Wow. So see, there are people online looking to take people down because it makes them feel better about themselves. So once again, we are going to be proactive instead of reactive. We are not going to react to their agenda. We are going to assert ours, which is being proactive instead of reactive. It is to get bigger and stronger and more centered and clear that we will not be rocked by that. So for example, if we are getting into an argument, we can say, you know what, we're both right. See, because sometimes that's true, especially in a family. They have a particular point of view. You have a particular point of view. They are different. and they are one, they're
Yes.
not wrong.
So this is like, and I don't want to get too off track here, but like very relevant to what's going on in the world right now, because what people don't see, which I very much feel and see, is people have deep generational wounds and deep past, and people are coming from their own stories and their own cultures, their own this. So what's happening is both people are right, honestly, like, because you're gonna believe your background. Of course, you're going to believe your culture. You're going to believe what you've been brought up to believe. So that's very triggering for people to see that, including me, right? I'm human too. And I have to remind myself, somebody else saying something opposite, that's their true belief set. So it's like you said, we are both right. Even though that's hard to say, it's true so many times.
So, and do you see how we're acknowledging that you've heard, let's agree to disagree, which is another way to say that, which is like, I'm not going to change your mind and you're not going to change my mind. And as you said, if we both think we're right, we're both going to be wrong, right? Because we are seeing the other person as wrong. We're trying to make them see the error of their ways, or why what they're thinking is not correct,
but that's not going to work ever.
That's a conflict. A conflict is a battle for control. And if we're convinced we're right, they're convinced they're right, and we keep going at it, we're not going to change each other's mind. And now I hope people write down these words: that serves no good purpose.
Yeah. And please say that instead of do your research, because that's the opposite. When people say that, I'm like, oh boy, that's like the cop out that triggers everyone. Do your research.
Yep. So can I share an example once again? In the real world, what do we do when we're at loggerheads with someone? When we have reached that impasse and we're about to ruin a relationship, because if we keep, arguing and ramping up and getting more intense and angry, it's going to cause a rift that perhaps can't be healed. So there was a woman in the speaking industry. She was iconic, and we had monthly phone calls for 25 years. And a few years ago, she said rather casually in one of our phone calls that she thought that the president at the time was the best president we'd ever had. Natalie Jill, I was shocked, because I thought just the opposite. And I couldn't believe someone I respected and admired and had known for 20 years had such a polar opposite opinion.
Yeah.
And at the end of the phone call, I wondered if we were ever going to talk again.
Wow.
And it was,
because you couldn't understand you coming from such different viewpoints. Yes,
that's right. So I was very fortunate, because when I was thinking, all right, am I going to throw away at that time a 20-year friendship over this disagreement? And I grew up in Southern California on a horse, and there were dry riverbeds with quicksand. And like, did our parents forbid us from riding horses because they knew that was the quicksand out there? No, they just told us to avoid the quicksand. So see, in the middle, if we are once again at an impasse, maybe you're going into Thanksgiving here, going into the holidays, if there's a family member and they have a completely opposite political opinion, and they know they're going to stir it up at dinner and everyone's going to get
that's
upset,
my family,
and stamp out and so forth.
That'll be my family at this Thanksgiving. Yes.
Okay. So you can declare this a quicksand conversation. Instead of quitting the relationship, instead of getting embroiled in hurtful arguments, we can say, we have strong, we both feel very strongly about this, and it looks like we're not going to change each other's mind. Let's honor what we have in common instead of what we have in conflict. We have so much more, and that's what Glenna and I agreed to do. We have so much more in common than we do in conflict. She's not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change her. I want to honor the 20-year relationship. And now, by the way, there are two words we can use. Someone may be thinking it's too late. We already had that conversation, and we haven't talked now in a year or 2 years. It's back to an Andrew story, is that we grew up in Maui. We were in the lee of Haleakala, so it never rained except this one day. It rained all day, and Andrew turned the hall wall into a mural. Natalie Jill, I am not a happy camper. I am letting him know about it. And in the middle of it, he looks up at me and he says, two relationship changing words. He says, fresh start, And you know
That's
what?
funny.
It was. I realized yelling at him didn't undo it, didn't do any good. This is not the parent I wanted to be. This was not how. So what I'm suggesting is, if we have a rift in a relationship, if things have been said, I will never forgive her, I can't believe he did that. You pick up the phone and you give him a call and you say, let's not even go into who said what and why. Can we have a fresh start?
Mm,
And you know what? It can be,
yeah.
because she's gone now. And Natalie, in perspective, I'm so glad we decided to make that a quicksand topic, because now we have results instead of regrets.
Yeah.
And if we have regrets in a relationship, let's have a fresh start. Let's focus on what we have in common instead of what we have in conflict.
So good. So good. When do you ever get tripped up with this? I mean, are there times where you catch yourself and say, gosh, I'm not taking my own advice,
Yeah.
and how do you get back on track?
It's with 5%ers. It's because our strength taken to an extreme is our Achilles heel. And see, Natalie Jill, I have the pleasure of knowing you. I know that you are a person in integrity. I know that you are a proactive person. I know that you want to treat people with respect. And if we are dealing with a 5%er, it is surreal, because we cannot believe that people would knowingly be cruel. We cannot believe that people would intentionally hurt others. Now, once again, go back to the agenda of a 5%er. They will knowingly do things to knock you off balance because they can come in for control.
Right.
In fact, on the Larry King show, 5 minutes into the interviewer, the guest said, by the way, Larry, has anyone ever told you you have really bad breath? And
What?
Larry, oh yeah, Larry kind of
Whoa.
fell back in his chair and he said, well, no. And the individual said, well, I won't bother then. Now look at the dynamics. It was Larry King's show.
Wow.
5%ers, bullies, narcissists don't want someone else to have a show. They want to run the show.
Yeah.
They will do or say anything to knock
Whoa.
someone off balance. Now, people said, Sam, what could Larry King have said?
Yeah.
He could have said, does that work with other people? Do you see how? Name the game.
Yes.
And you neutralize the game. Or he could have gone up a notch and he could have said, shame on you.
Mm.
Because when we're dealing with 5%ers, I'm going to suggest something that flies in the face of what we've been taught. So do we have time for a quick little story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so there was a single mom. She had two daughters. One was graduating from a high school and the other was graduating from Georgetown University on the same day. She couldn't be there. So she went to the high school, and her ex-husband, who was persona non grata because he was a 5%er, showed up at the daughter's graduation at Georgetown. And no sooner did she get her diploma than he walked up and said, you just threw thousands of dollars down the drain. Why did you get a degree in political science? You're not going to be able to get a job in that. Natalie Jill, she did a pattern interrupt. She held her hand up. She said, Dad, stop. She said, do I look like my mother? She said, I am proud of getting this degree from this university. If you are here to help me celebrate, you are welcome to stay. If you're not, leave.
Mm.
And if we are dealing with a 5%er who has a pattern of saying mean or hurtful or rude things to knock us off balance so they can be in control, do not use the word I. We've been taught to, I don't think that's fair. I don't like to be spoken to in that tone of voice. I don't like the word I with a 5%er is double jeopardy, because they always make it everyone else's fault. So if we say I, we're owning their misbehavior, right?
Yeah.
Do the you back off. You, enough. You, take your hand off my shoulder. You, clean it up. Do you see what she said?
Yes.
If you are here to help me celebrate, you are welcome to stay. If you're not, leave. Do you see how the word you keeps the attention on their misbehavior instead of our reaction to it?
And I guess the recognition, and I also I've been in many relationships like that with those types of people, that will never change them. To know that we'll never change them, we can only react differently.
You are 100%. In fact, here is, because I did write a book, Take the Bully by the Horns, because as you said, Sam, when do you ever get tripped up? Well, Tung Fu is based on, Gandhi, be the change you wish to see. And see, 95% of people have a conscience. And if we do all of these proactive responses, finding solution, not fault, what do you mean? Instead of, that's not true. It's like, how would I feel? Instead of like, how rude, etc.
Yeah.
We are the ones setting the tone, and most people will respond in kind. 5%ers, they see this as weakness. So here's what we do. In the middle of dealing with a surreal situation where someone was really trying to take me out, knock me down, take me out, control me, ruin my self-esteem, etc., a good friend showed me a quote from William Blake, and William Blake said, "We are all born innocent, and at some point we will encounter evil. And at that point, we either become embittered and that person or incident defines or defeats us, or, you ready for two of the most beautiful words in the English language? Informed innocence." See, we realize that there are 5%ers in the world who are jealous of us, so they're going to take us down so they can feel tall and we can be small, who want to be like us, want to have friends, be popular, and they're not, so they'll try and destroy it. We understand that exists. We do not let it define and defeat us. We continue to be who we are, and in a way we can be proud of, so we have results and not regrets. And by the way, Tennessee Williams said, sometimes it is time to leave, even when there's no particular place to go.
Oh, so good.
If we recognize we are in a relationship with a 5%er, as you said, Natalie, Jill, we may be thinking, I'm going to stay in this relationship because, keep the family intact for the kids. What we accept, we teach. We are teaching our kids that this is how men treat women, or this is what a marriage looks like, or you stay no matter how awful it is. Is that what we want to teach? No, we want to teach that people treat each other with respect. We want to teach that we try everything we can in order to preserve a relationship. And if the pattern is set and the person will not change, then we remove ourselves from the toxicity, because that's what we want to teach our kids.
Excellent.
We have agency.
So good, Sam. Gosh, Sam, this was fantastic. Talking on Eggshells is her most recent book. You can find it anywhere books are sold, I'm assuming. Is there a specific place you want them to go, or?
Thank you. They're welcome to go to Amazon or their favorite independent. And if they come to my website, I actually have posts on this. I have videos on this.
Amazing.
My goal is that people have a resource. There's even a bully quiz to figure out if you're dealing with a 5%er.
Oh, we all have to take that quiz.
Oh, good.
So how do they find that? What website?
samhorn.com, SAMHORN.com. And I hope people follow me on LinkedIn, because you and I are both.
Is that your main place, your LinkedIn?
Okay. LinkedIn. Yep.
I'm glad you said that. I would have said Instagram or whatever. So I'm glad you said. So LinkedIn, find her on LinkedIn and follow her there. Why do you want them to follow you there? Do you put more information out there? Where you share most?
It's because I give real life examples. My life is my lab. And so if someone in a program says, I work for a bully boss, and I'm the one holding the office together, and he or she's the one getting all the credit, and they deliberately, undermine me, take my ideas, etc.
Yeah.
So what can I do? So when people tell me about what they're facing, I write about it in LinkedIn. Here's a real life story. So we can, oh my gosh, that's happening to me. And here's exactly what we can do or say, so that we're proactive instead of reactive. And once again, so that we have agency and we're actually working to improve the situation, make it better, instead of just suffering in silence.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sam. This was fantastic. Thank you.
You bet. I hope people have found it interesting and useful, and that they choose. Joyce Meyer said, life may give us a cactus. We don't have to sit on it.